All right, NLP Communication Model. Let's take a look. So, what is NLP Communication Model? In the workbook, you're going to find this image. You're going to have a deep dive. So, very, very simple model. We'll start from the right side here. Any kind of external event or information, it's coming from the external world. We perceive it through our five senses, right? But once the information enters the mind, in order for us to make sense of it, it passes so-called filters of perception, such as generalization, distortion, deletion, right? Generalization, for example, I don't know, if someone had bad experiences, they can generalize things. As an example, you had some bad experiences with dogs and you think like that all dogs are dangerous, right? Someone bit you, but most of dogs may be friendly. So that's a generalization, putting things into buckets, putting things into different categories. Deletion, as an example. Deletion is basically removing part of the information that's coming in. If we just absorb all the information, right, it would be chaos. We need to delete stuff and focus on another stuff. For example, in a conversation, you're having a chat with your friends and they have a new haircut, right? But you don't even notice. You're so absorbed by the conversation itself, and then your mind deletes that information until you suddenly focus and saying like, oh, you look pretty, something changed. Distortion. Distortion is changing the information. Your mind is changing the information based on what you already know, your past experience, different beliefs, different programs. So imagine, for example, you are afraid of public speaking, and just different thoughts that you have just about that matter can distort and blow it up your presentation that's coming up, and you will experience fear at a much deeper degree. Next one, so the mind itself. Mind itself, we talked about it, think of it as an operating system. There are different programs. We call it meta programs. Some very deep underlying programming. And a lot of it coming from external conditioning. You're born into the world, your parents condition you first, right? We absorb a lot of programs, and again, they don't condition you just through ill intent. We become our parents just through osmosis, just by observing them. And of course, there's a lot of education going on. Do this, don't do this. You should think like this. You shouldn't think like this, right? This is right, this is wrong. This is good, this is bad. And different meta programs, then school, then society, all the different levels of conditioning. So meta programs are your values. We're going to work a lot through this, but deeply ingrained beliefs about what's important to you, right? Your other beliefs, some of them can be limiting, and we're going to talk a lot about that. Your memories, your decisions, your different kind of mental attitudes, and of course language itself, as we talked about it. Mother tongue programming you in a very certain way. It's very interesting how even learning a second language can affect your psyche. There was a study how some people from Asian cultures, they learn English language and they become more confident, more assertive. And on the other hand, Westerners who have English as a mother tongue, they learn some Asian language and they absorb something else. They absorb the Asian philosophy, for example. So all these meta programs, they are running and they're very complex. They're rarely understood. They can run at the level of subconsciousness. They're not even, they can even bypass the awareness, right? And every information here, it passes the filters. It integrates somehow through your inner programming and inner operating system, your mind. And this external information, we don't really see the world as is. We see the world as we are. And this brings us to the concept of internal representation. Internal representation is basically a mental model. Like, for example, think of a human mind as a projector, right? You're seeing constantly a movie within your mind's eye, right? And many people forget, right, that they always think, I'm an actor. I'm the one acting in this movie. I'm the director. I'm also deciding the course of action of this movie. I'm also the audience. I'm watching what's going on in the movie. But many people forget that you're also in the back, in that projection room, you're the person in charge of the projector. You're the technician in charge of the real projector. So you can set up the reel, or you can shut the whole movie down. So these kind of movies, internal representations, projections, let's say, of what we perceive externally, is the internal representation. Our thoughts, our conceptions about what's going on outside. Our conceptions, our thoughts, they bring us to the state of mind. It's a very complex, but basically a fusion of the emotional state, psychological state, mental state, any given moment, right? And through your thoughts, you practically create different shifts through the things that we feel. So we think something, and then we feel something. At we create these emotional inner states, and the only way to feel your emotions is through the framework of the physical body. So you think of something, it creates an emotion. Emotion changes the physiology. You would feel the emotion somewhere in the body, physical, as a physical sensation, right? And then your mind, interestingly, will respond to the physiology. Oh, like, I'm experiencing all these interesting things, probably, and it assigns the meaning to it. I'm feeling the emotion of. So let's say an external event. Again, let's take an example of public speaking. You need to speak in front of 500 people. Palms are sweaty, breathing very shortly, heart is pumping, right? But the mind itself, it can build two different internal representations. It can build a narrative of, hey, I'm nervous, or I'm scared, or it can build a narrative, I'm excited. So the way you build a narrative, this internal representation, creates a certain state of mind. It creates the physiology, and then again, mind responds to the physiology in a certain way, and then action or behavior, right? We change the external world through our actions and behavior, and this external experience brings us new data, new information, and this is constantly a loop going on, right? It might be a little complex. I have more examples in the workbook. Read through it, and it will make a lot of sense. But we'll jump into next model, which is a little bit simpler, and it will explain, probably again at a different level, reiterate what we've just discussed.